Mr. Scott Mckay, can you hear me, my man?
I can hear you loud and clear, brother. How are we doing over
We
there?
are good. We are live on, well,
Excellent.
let's call it Brave TV. It's Revolution Network, going to Brave TV, but we're Brave TV tonight. And let me confirm we are good. Yeah, we are live on the channel. And how are you doing, my man?
I'm fantastic, brother, but I'll get better.
Yeah, have you been going like all day today?
I'm going all month this month. Yeah. I did take a break. I went horizontal for a little while. I didn't sleep a whole lot last night, and I get up early, and then I decided to kind of flatline for a little bit, and then got in touch with you, and then we just went ahead and put our show together. So yeah.
Beautiful. I love it, my man. You said, oh, you stay up late. And I was like, oh, you stay up late. And it is kind of like that warrior moment where you just have to like do what you have to do. We have to go forward. This is there's a little burnout, but like this is for the republic. This is it's not even to restore. It's not even to save the republic. The republic is actually gone. It's to restore the republic and to
Yep.
build the republic. Could you give all the people out there who maybe have never seen you before or heard about you just a quick, before we dive into everything, background on you, where you come from, and how the hell you know this stuff?
Yeah. Well, I come from the wellness industry actually, so a lot of my time and research has been in that realm. I was on the national competitive bodybuilding stage, and and that translated into that industry. And I'm from the Northeast, from PA, but I ended up in California for a lot of years. But at the time that was ending, I abruptly ended because I was on the track for naval aviation, and that's a whole different story. But so inevitably, living in California, got involved in elective politics probably 6 years before that, in the mid '90s, and I just had a passion for public policy, I guess, geopolitics, just things that I was curious about, mainly because I saw politicians how they treated our soldiers in Vietnam, and that stayed with me. I learned that in college in a project, and then I got involved in different campaigns, did all the grunt work over time. Served on different committees, central committees, and was campaign manager for state assembly race, worked presidential campaigns, got inauguration invites, all that stuff. And that's kind of how. And in 2006, it officially ended. 2004 was the last campaign I worked. And 2006, when I made discoveries about the truth of many things that we don't know, 911, inside job, all that. That was the time when I realized that I was never going to be able to serve our country in that place inside of the Beltway, because it's a corrupt machine, which now people are starting to find out the truth. And I learned that, but not the depths of it. And I knew that unless I accomplished enough wealth so nobody owned me, which was my marker, when I realized it still wouldn't have mattered, it would still get me, I just walked and then stayed on the sidelines and went about building my business. And 2015, I happened to saw the speech, saw Trump make that speech that day by chance, by accident, and went 3 5 minutes into it, maybe 5 minutes. I just said, this is it. This is the Republican nominee. I texted people around the country, stop what you're doing, get in front of the TV. This is the Republican nominee. This is a landslide winner. And then that's when I kind of just got back into Facebook, got crushed. In 18 months, I got beat up because I was pro-Trump, but it turned out the way it did. And and then the intelligence operation started. We went down a rabbit hole and started following this operation, and dug and did a lot more research, and made some terrible discoveries about the truth and why Trump and the military are on a global mission to destroy it and set us free, basically. That's the background. By the way, I started a radio show. You probably want me to throw that out there.
Yes, I do.
A year ago,
Promote
I
all of your
started a
stuff,
radio
man.
show.
Promote your stuff, because everyone needs to hear what you're saying.
Okay, so I started a radio show called The Tipping Point. I created that, and it's on Revolution Radio on Monday nights, tomorrow night, 8 to 10 p.m. And online, that's revolution.radio, and I'm in Studio B. By the way, I've got a YouTube channel. There's two of them that are active, three of them that are active, but two I'm working from, because I get booted off of one, I go to the other. So the one that I'm currently on right now is a secondary, and that is called it's Untold History channel on YouTube. So I live stream my stuff there. Radio shows, I create videos out of them, put them there. Until Saturday, 20th. I get out of YouTube jail for my second jail break. and I go back to my standard primary home. It's called the Tipping Point Radio, and I've got different site to kind of connect with me on social media. That's patriotsriseup.com, and that's a mobile connect. Scroll through that, you can connect with me on all social media, and that's kind of the long and short of it.
Beautifully stated. Yeah, it's so funny. You told me the other day on the phone. You're like, oh yeah, I'm in jail. I'm like, you may not actually come out of jail. You may get banned before you actually like come out of jail, because I've been through that as well, and they are not gonna like the stuff you said. And you're on the other channel too, correct? That there's another one out there. Are we allowed to talk about that one?
Yeah, there's the Untold History channel I'm operating off of right now. Okay, because I had a 2-week jailbreak. The Tipping Point Radio is what I'll go back to on the 20th, and then I just put up another one called Patriot Street Fighter. It's kind of the brand image that I guess was created for me because of the way I rained down hellfire on this criminal political establishment, and so yeah, that's a third channel that is parked there in case I'm trying to keep the war alive on YouTube, because people say, I just leave them. Well, that's where the war is being fought right now. That's where the numbers are. And even though I've got Brighteon, I put everything up on Brighteon as backup. Yeah, that's got BitChute, got Rumble, but Brighteon's my go-to to upload everything that I do, to have a backup so people can go there if they boot me off of all YouTube channels.
Wow. So yeah, the battle is real. I mean, but I guess from this standpoint, obviously censorship is horrendous, because if these were private companies who were behaving themselves, they would technically have a right, but they actually became publishers with opinions because they got involved with elections, they got involved with truth telling, and so at that point now it becomes a violation of the First Amendment rights. So it's an actual complete battle and war against us, which is completely insane. And I mean, since Friday night, with Twitter going down, I get yanked in. I think the second wave of Twitter being yanked on there, and been Facebook, been YouTube for a while. It's been completely insane. But that's what happens as the truth gets pushed out. Now, you have some updates for us. I got a text earlier, that the Insurrection Act. Now, I got the fact that it was signed, and then I jumped on Monkeys real quick, and he said that's what he's heard. Give us your update, because we talked a little bit ago, but I know some things may have shifted around. What are the updates on your end?
Yeah, I heard the same thing. I saw that blowing up like crazy. I never know where to land on those things, because true or not, you just can't really tell. There's so much information flying around. But I did hear the same thing. I heard they did sign the Insurrection Act. They did have to go through the process, right through Mike Pence, taking his actions, and allow these guys to certify before they could now say, okay, we now have identified all the traitors. Now they officially, through the certification, did that. And then they decided to initiate. Now, whether or not that it's initiated, I have to say there are definitely military assets being positioned around the country. I got one yesterday about basically a command operation where it's set up on the West Coast, and I got that from my top source, who's connected, and this didn't come from these two generals, military intelligence generals. He's involved in a different project with them post takedown, but he's also talking to an NSA brigadier general. And this information I'm going to tell you didn't come from them. It came from another source. But when they described what was going on in terms of setting up a major command post in California, it looks like they're preparing. California is eyeballs deep in cabal players, a ton of them there. So when you look at those things happening, and you look at the troop movements, I think I mentioned this yesterday, out of Pennsylvania, they are moving guard troops. They weren't supposed to be in D.C. until the 17th. Well, now they're moving now. The large bus companies in that area are loading these guys up, heading to D.C. I saw Mckay today showed an extraordinary amount of air traffic out there today. And he did say that it appears, based on some of the things he did see. Now, I know POTUS has been in the White House through the course when they say he's here or there. He might have been in Abilene for a period of time. Who knows? But I also I talked to Mike Adams today, and he told me a couple of days ago that his special ops guys who are active duty said they're positioning for precision extraction operations in Democrat cities targeting Antifa and BLM targets, leaders. So they're prepared for all of that. I'm trying to think of where I did see something else. I saw National Guard troop movements going into somewhere else. It's not occurring to me at the moment, but I'll come back to that. So that's where we are. I think if you look, somebody told me today, if you look at Pompeo, this might have been a stringer that was in the intel about Pompeo. There was a marker where he was going to be putting out a tweet every hour on the hour. And then it was going to go down to every 45 minutes, then at a period of time every half hour, then down to 15, then it goes to 0. Once it goes to 0, then that's possibly an activation for something. So, who knows? I don't think we're going to know the details and minutia of it because ops security's wrecked. But I think the eyes on are enough to say that we may really be in this potential regional martial law, a situation where, because they're not going to do this all over the nation, they got to go where the targets are.
Right. So, no, that makes sense. And it's almost like, and I bring this up too because a lot of people are following Q, obviously, and there was questions asked a long time ago. Well, if Q is correct, and aren't the deep state also watching that? And as this has been unfolding, I actually believe Q is partially a good psyop as well, meaning that it might be carried out certain ways, but at the same time, I think some of the stuff is going to be probably like misinformation / disinformation along with the real information because, again, they can't let everyone know the wide open plans. What is your theory on that?
Yeah, and when you read through all of that intel, and I've been through it, most of it twice, and some of it 3 and 4 times, trying to decipher things. We know that misinformation is absolutely necessary. They've made that clear because they've got to get potential operations or timelines to where the enemy will expend ammunition. And that's what they seem to always be doing, or putting information out there to watch, to see how they react, who they call. They making a cross-border run. Where are their exit portals? What's the ammunition and what's the what access points do they have to anything they need, escape routes, assets. So that's just kind of common warfare. And obviously being this military intelligence operation, it's still a warfare platform. And so that's why I always say I don't get settled on dates. Like maybe you and I talked about this, but I've had conversation with a couple of people. I talked about it tonight on the Untold History Channel show we did. People get hung up on a date. We knew that the zero barrier for the survival of the nation was November 3rd, right? And we knew ahead of time that it was going to be a massive landslide. It was going to be a theft. We knew it was going to be we didn't know how the theft would look, but we knew that the media was going to say what they were going to say. So then it goes in that direction where they declare Biden the winner. So now the zero barrier date happens to be December 14th. And everybody's, it's got to be, we're 2 days away. And if it doesn't happen here and it doesn't look like it and blah, the sky is falling. Well, we hit the 14th. And what did they do? They do what criminals always do in your face if they have to. So then the next date is January the 6th. So now there's this turmoil trauma where a day, 2 days out, if it doesn't happen January 6th on that day, et cetera. And what happens? The sky falls again, right? Because they expected a political solution to this. And I keep explaining, this isn't about a political solution. The military isn't trying to get one. They don't expect one. They don't even want one because they know they've got to get these criminals committing crimes. So they back themselves into the jail cell practically. So the 6th comes and goes, right? Now what do we have? The 20th. What are we, 10 days away? And here we go again. We'll go to another fever pitch and we'll be 2 days out and people are freaking out. And I just keep saying, look, let me explain this to you. Calm down, sit down, breathe, relax. Because forget the date. War has no dates. Number one. Number two, the 20th, what does that mean? Look, George Washington wasn't inaugurated until I think March the 14th
I know,
or something.
it's so weird. No
right?
one knows that. It went into, I think almost into April or something like that.
April. I heard April too. And the thing of it is, you ask yourself, okay, why was it back in 44 that FDR, when he was president, whoever decided to move the inauguration up to January 20th, we really need to do this after 100 something years, whatever it was. Well, ask yourself a question. Did they ever do anything for the good of the people or the process of the nation or themselves? I'd like to know what that reason was for. What nefarious thing did they have going on that it now had to be January the 20th? It wasn't to end a particular start a date for the beginning of a fiscal year or something. They don't care. The bankers run the show. They do whatever they need to do. They own the country, at least till Trump. So that being said, I just say, folks, be calm. It's going to be okay. Trump said, I'm not going to be at the inauguration on 20th, probably because there's not going to be one, or it's going to be pushed into a situation where they're going to be spending a period of time. Look, here's all this data drop, all the intel, all the crimes, all of that stuff. And they're going to do whatever they do to put the brakes on it, because we are now, obviously, if we are in a military situation, then the military is running the country completely. Trump has no say in it. They're going after the enemy inside the wire. And that's the Khazarian Mafia. It has a new name and a new face, CCP. It used to have a new name, or had another name. It was Radical Muslims. And the Khazarian Mafia, they used to call themselves the communists, the Soviets. And then it's always something else, right? It's the Khazarian Mafia.
100%. It's interesting you bring up something, because there's been questions of, okay, does something happen this week? Is January 20th the inauguration? And this is something that, and I've been studying this for a while. The act of, 1871, which was the bankruptcy, basically, of America, the Republic, when the bankers took over, created the corporate structure, put the gold fringe on the flag, maritime law, etc. And so the other thing we have to think about, and I'm glad you brought up, and I'd love to speak on this as well, is the fact that we don't even fully know what and how this could be carried out, because if that is taken down, the president was technically the last president of the corporation. We need a president now if we actually restore a republic. That's a whole different ballgame right there, because even January 20th, that technically is a corporate day. I mean, corporate America day. Do you see him walking right into the next 4 years in a restore the republic like we talked about earlier?
Yeah, I mean, I got some information and a viewpoint that comes from this source I talked about earlier, that we are killing the U.S. court. It's dead, basically. I mean, once you take out the bankers and the banking system and everything else, it's dead. But the restoration process could take, fully, a couple years to restore it on all levels. And what exactly does that mean, or what does it look like? Not really sure. But we know Trump is, as we understand, he's going to be the last president of the United States corporation. And there'll be the first president of the restored republic. And I actually thought, okay, he'll be the leader of the new republic. But the person I talked to today said there's going to be a different person who is to be the first president of the restored republic.
Who might that be, sir? Who might that be?
What does this mean? It's a rabbit hole. Might need some background on that one.
Go for it.
Well, if you haven't heard anything about this, and you want to know, you could go to the live stream I did on Untold History channel, because I actually went down that rabbit hole deeply. I've done it before. It could possibly be, once Trump serves a second 4 years, dismantling the rest of the machine, the restored republic. The first president of the United States would be John F. Kennedy Jr.
So you're saying, and I will tell you up front, I've always been a 50-50 person here. I'm a bit of a objective skeptic. So I want it to be true, but I'm like, okay, I need evidence. I need evidence. Give us some back. Do you know how and what, like, is this really been the 20-year journey of putting the plan together to put in the Nacera? You know, people are asking about all these questions. Is that how you see it?
Right. Well, I think it's plausible. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I would say I'm incredibly hopeful by everything. I'll be heartbroken if it doesn't happen, because from what I've seen over time, and if you understand, the political machine and how it works from, an aerial view for decades, and I see all the things that have been dropped, these breadcrumbs to see the possibility. I've I've gained hope for that. But there's a couple things if you look at how JFK Jr. went out. Now, I wasn't a fan of his. I was not indifferent. He's America's favorite son. He was this good-looking guy, Kennedy family. All the girls liked him. He's an attorney, and he's a kid. He's a total celebrity that wore his ball caps like I do, running around Manhattan. On a bicycle, never had a car, all that stuff. Like that's a cool guy. So didn't like the Kennedys. I thought they were all bad dudes. I didn't, I got JF Kennedy. I mean, right here, this is, this is part of my mission. Is you see that was an ornament. This Melania was hanging this on a tree in a picture of one of the drops that went out, or she had put out, whatever.
I have that same exact one. Somebody sent it to me. I love it.
Yeah. Somebody sent it to me too, and I'm like, oh, that's that. I didn't realize it was an ornament. I didn't take it out of the box and see there's a thing to it. Like, oh, that's an ornament. But so Kennedy is killed, right? And now the way the Khazarian mafia works is you're talking about an evil power that they're not going to just take you out. They're going to take out everybody ever connected to you, because they play the long game. They've been winning at this game for 1,500 years. And if there's anybody that's a threat, believe me, they're going to take out everybody that's connected to the genetic line. So the discoveries 150, 200 years later, that this genetic line figures we're going to take back control of what's ours, and then they become a threat. They don't leave that happen. That's why they stayed in power. So what does that mean? Then you're going to see that they're going to eliminate the greatest threat in the Kennedy family is going to be Junior. Now you got Hillary. It's already been established that the Clinton machine is a clowns in America operation, Khazarian mafia. She's a Rockefeller and he's a Rothschild. They changed their names to keep hidden, and they're keeping control. So she's going to carpetbag New York, going up against a candidate nobody could beat in the Senate race in '99. So then a couple months later, what happens? What you'd expect. Now, I don't know if you and I talked about this, Jason. I think we did in the past, but what I learned was, or heard, true or not, was that first, the military's been protecting Junior his whole life. They get it. I mean, they're part of this operation for decades, trying to figure out a way to infiltrate a bunch of generals, a couple hundred of them, other people. So these generals obviously know he's under threat. So he's well protected, and his security detail, a week prior to the crash, before the primaries for that Senate seat that Moynihan retired from, they find a strip of putty. It's probably well concealed, maybe into the paint or something around the fuselage, and they discover that it's actually C4, and it's connected to an altitude trigger. How do you take out Junior? They always make it an accident. He's flying, something happens, goes down. So that gave his security detail a week to prepare, and they probably thought, this is a perfect opportunity because the machine's moving against him. And so that means that how do they protect the guy? So this is a perfect opportunity for them to think that they got him, and why wouldn't you go into hiding or, go into high level witness protection security in some sense for however long it took? Maybe you didn't know it was going to be 20 years, but they're going to get you eventually. Why not work with the power that could help to finally end it all for the cabal? So now here we are. The plane is now prepared for takeoff. And as I understand it, it was a Navy pilot in there. And they had the voice commands on a recorder, because given tower commands, to get out of the airport, it's pretty simple. I've flown planes out of University Park at Penn State. So you could have the tower commands recorded on call when you need it. Plane gets out. and it gets to the altitude that they probably set the altitude trigger for when they discovered that. They replaced it with a remote detonator, remote trigger. Navy pilot jumps out, and and it goes down, right? And then the whole operation starts to find Junior. So now I remember back then, I was heartbroken. I mean, like I said, I was somewhat indifferent, but that really, really affected me. And I focused on the next 2 weeks on a $17 million naval operation to find this guy. And I thought, if that was one of us, they wouldn't be spending 17 million to come and get us. Let it go, maybe. But here's where I got really suspicious. I got suspicious when they brought the wreckage up and they brought bodies up, as they said, of 3 bodies. Now, again, you can go to a morgue the way these people work, and they just put bodies in there and you got the bodies. Why wouldn't they want to find it for 2 weeks? Folks, think about this. The high technology we had even back then. We had everything you can imagine in military technologies that are far advanced than you can even imagine. We can't find this plane in 2 weeks. Well, maybe they wanted decomposure, whatever, these bodies for whatever reason. So when you brought them up, you can't see. The crabs can chew them apart. You can't really see if a camera gets on them. So now what happens within 24 hours? They cremate the bodies and they scatter them at sea. Now, you're going to tell me that American royalty, America's favorite son, is not going to undergo a massive autopsy? They're going to figure everything possible to find out what happened to JFK Jr.? There is no way. And I didn't, like I said, I wasn't a fan of Democrats because I still had that biased mentality that I got rid of, but because they're all criminals. But that didn't pass the smell test with me. Now we move fast forward into this time, and we see all these little crumbs dropped out there, and we start hearing this possibility. Who would just make that up? Number one. Number two, you look at all the intel, and there's 2 things that resonate with me, is that we know it's coming. We know it's going to get chaotic. We know a powder keg could be going off in different areas when they find out that their guy's not going to take the power. And you have some chaos possibly happening around the world. And we were told through 1 or 2 of these long threads of this intel, when you get to it, you're like, it's going to be rough. But at the end of that, as it builds up to it, capital letters, the world will be united. I thought, what could unite the world? And I think I saw that thread again. And so you ask yourself, in the midst of all this chaos, and now Trump has declassified everything, and we're going to find out who killed JFK and the real killers, H.W. Bush, and the 9/11 attacks to bring down the towers, H.W. Bush, and a bunch of others. Believe me, you try to start swallowing some of that stuff, and really tough stuff comes out, and there's chaos. What is one thing, in my opinion, would pacify the chaos literally within 24 hours across the planet? The reemergence of America's favorite son, that half the left-wing Democrats that are still believers would drop to their knees in tears, however that would unfold, it would shit shock people, everybody. Like, oh my God, you're telling me that for 20 years, this man gave up the life and his wife and kids and had a whole separate life to work with the military to finally bring down a cabal that's been in power for 1,400 years? And not only that he's actually alive. Think of what, you'd have half the world be the same way, because if you mention John F. Kennedy Jr. to at least half the people on the planet Earth, they would know who he is. And to realize that this was staged to mount a final cataclysmic attack on this power structure and free humanity, I can't think of any, short of if Christ would sit his feet on the planet, if you believe in Christ, or if Princess Diana emerged in the same role, what else would be biblical? Because they said it's going to be biblical. So I say, if you add up that and the other minutia that we've looked at over time, it's plausible. Now, and here's what I covered just the last hour, and I'm going to tell you this. Now, again, if it doesn't happen, I don't want to dash your hopes
Right.
on all of it, but I'm still waiting for it. I'm not like, that's tinfoil, that's BS. You can say whatever you want. I care less. I want the outcome. And if that's an outcome that's possible, I'm going to keep hope. Because it makes sense who would finally lead the new republic that killed the machine that his dad went after and they killed him. So my contact, who is connected to these generals, we had this discussion last year. And I know what his answers have been. So I asked him again last night. And then we were talking about different things. And I said, so where do we stand with that? Because people said it was going to be October 17th. He would come out as a VP, all this kind of stuff. So he described what the generals had said to him when it was asked. These alliance generals, they're not inside the small group of less than 10 and 3 are non-military. They're the core group that knows every single thing about the plan, but they're still alliance generals and they're aware, and they carry out their compartmentalized processes. But I asked him again today, I said, what did you say? He said, it was 4 words. He said, when I asked you, is Junior alive? He said, absolutely, unequivocally, irrefutably, undebatably, yes. I was like, holy cow. And I said, well, you said that this, because I try to catch people, not on purpose, but if something doesn't add up months later, and I'm like, wait, you said this. And I said, but didn't you tell me that you asked this one general, he's a brigadier general, he's at NSA, you asked him and you told me that he said, Jeff, there are no accidents, right? My friend's name is Jeff. Because when he said there are no accidents, because he was talking to this general before the election, and he said, and he would tell Jeff this because this process to be vetted for this operation, it's being implemented after this whole thing goes down, this huge humanitarian operation, he had to be vetted through it, NSA and DOD to be what should I say, qualified to receive these massive humanitarian funds to put this model in motion. But I said, you told me that when you were talking to him and said, when Trump wins, and then you said, well, if Trump wins, and the general said, Jeff, there are no accidents. He said, oh, well, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, so what, but I'm just saying that if Trump wouldn't win, he'd lose, Jeff, there are no accidents. An accident's when you go through an intersection, you get hit by a car or whatever. That's an accident. He said, there are no accidents. And he was telling him something. And I said, isn't that what you told me when you asked about Junior? That he said, Jeff, there are no accidents. He says, no. And he reminded me, he said, the one general that didn't answer the question of these 3 in particular, when he asked him, he said, he just looked at me and he said, like that. That was it.
That's all you need,
so
man.
So take that for what it's worth. Take it for what it's worth.
It's so funny because there's more and more being dropped online. I think I saw Ann Vandersteel a little bit today. She put up a thing with, is it General McInerney is his name? I forget. I think that's his name. And he was talking recently, and maybe as late as yesterday, I don't recall, but even he was starting to drop things about, these guys are talking about hardcore communists. They're not even holding back anymore. Back in the day, politicians and people, they kind of stay, they'd stay outside of that tinfoil hat line. They wouldn't talk too much about certain things. They would be very, I guess you'd say, vanilla or generalized. They're just all calling it out now. It literally is now, we are not going to become a communist nation. This is a republic. This is a constitutional republic. So it's really interesting how this all seems to be coming together. And I had never heard as much as you just said about JFK Jr. and the plane crash that they talk about. That's pretty intense detail right there.
Yeah, it is. And there's one thing I know. Look, there's no way. Junior's he's a smart guy, right? People say, well, he didn't pass the New York bar. Do you think they weren't purposely flunking this guy at the bar, right? Because they can't have him as a DA setting himself up. Because he said, I'm going to bring my father's killers into the courtroom, even if I have to bring down the government, right? He had to know that. And they'd publish it everywhere. He failed the bar.
Yeah, and it did. And it doesn't end with JFK. If they wanted to they needed to get rid of JFK to keep the little game going. And so You're right. And isn't it interesting that the entire Kennedy family seems to have lots of accidents in their family whenever something important keeps coming. Like, they're clearly targeted. And again, I'm not a Democrat. However, I talk a lot about sometimes classic liberalism, and our founders were classical liberals, and that's
liberals.
what Kennedy was. They were pro-America.
Yeah.
They were not radical liberal today. People need to understand the difference between classical liberal and today's radical liberal. Go watch some JFK like videos on YouTube. He was pro-America.
Right. No, and he was a good man. I mean, before I forget this point, I'll jump back to Kennedy. But the thing about Junior, another suspicious thing I forgot to mention is, he's going to take off. He's going to fly out. He's not instrument rated IFR rules. He's VFR rated, which is visual flight rules. There's no way he's going to take off on a day like that in IFR weather with his wife and his sister, especially out over water. I mean, no, you're not going to do that and take those risks, because I can tell you, I mean, I can't remember if I've ever been in that situation where I'm pretty sure I haven't, where I can't see anything in that plane that I'm flying and have control of. But that'd be pretty scary. You have to be able to watch those instruments and have confidence that, these instruments, that you can do that. That's not going to happen. So that was another thing. But with Kennedy, what you learn about Kennedy is that the father is who he was. He was a bootlegger, right? And he was a criminal. But then again, what's a crime? I think definitely he was a criminal in ways that he used influence. But this is during the Prohibition. So they're bootlegging, right? Because their rights are being violated and there's a demand for something. It's individual rights. So they said, screw the government, the criminals. If they were so right, why did they turn it around? Why did they get rid of abolition, the abolition? So he makes his wealth, but that stain, I guess, from what I learned or heard or read, that the two Kennedys wanted to clean that up. They wanted to, they're good men. And Bobby and John Kennedy were doing what they could. They actually had to associate with some nefarious people, like Giancana, is that his name, and the mafia guys. Because the mafia guys, they figured it out. They learned how to run the country. They learned how to get control of the country, presidential races, all that. So what did Kennedy do? Kennedy had to infiltrate that machine there. He had to rub up against on Giancana's, girlfriend or whatever. It's John Kennedy. Come on, he's running for the president. So naturally, those things are going to happen. So he worked his way in to get their trust to have them help get the presidency. And then once he got in there, cut the cords, because they thought we got our man. Well, he used them. They were using him to get what they want. He was smart enough. He outfoxed them, used them to get in that White House. And he was then, of course, what's he doing? He's going after the cabal. I mean, spelled it out like in public speeches. He talked about this monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. And he talked about this. He's in the world. That's why I can go on the tipping point or on our broadcast and just freaking call down the thunder. Because if that guy had the balls to do it then, and we have soldiers that are stepping onto battlefields every day, then what am I willing to do? I have no choice. I need to call these people the bad names I do every day, because people need to look at them for what they are. They're not all powerful. These are human beings. They go to the bathroom, then they wipe their backside just like you do. They just snake around, write laws, stay in the dark, do all these things nefariously under the cover of everything so they can bury you. Why? Because they're afraid of you. Because if we wake up in mass, there's nowhere to run and hide. They can't dig a hole deep enough in the ground for humanity to get to them and kill them, take them out, stop this nightmare. So I don't know why I went down that track, but Kennedy having the courage to do that, to me, is incredible. I mean, if that is only my purpose in my lifetime, my world, to launch a psychological dismantling of us worshiping these people by calling them bastards and dirtbags and scumbags and the Rothschild central banking murder machine, pedophile trafficking operation, somebody better say it, because if we don't, it's never going to be defeated. So anyways,
that's raising the consciousness for everybody, because they need to know. I mean, we talked earlier, the awakening is happening faster and faster. It's so funny you said Kennedy had to play with the mafia to get in, and it's interesting because who else had to play with the mafia? Oh, that's right. Donald Trump was in New York City building buildings. If you don't think he doesn't have a perfect past. Like, Donald Trump had to literally make deals with the mafia, with government in New York City to get where he wanted to do. It's in his books. I mean, he had to play. It's interesting because everyone wants the perfect person to be a leader, and leaders aren't perfect people. They get things done. And Trump knows how the mafia works because he worked directly alongside with them.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. When Trump came to power, they thought they had a political novice lightweight. I'm like, are you shitting me? This guy has been taking on the worst corruption and sewers in politics in the worst city in the country. Because when he came in, and I remember being in New York City. There was a show I was going to one weekend. It's my first time in New York City, and it was in the early '80s, like the Teenage Mystery East Coast or something. And I'm so overwhelmed by what I'm seeing. This city, I'm thinking how powerful the experience was. I was like, I want to get out of here. I want to go home. Going through the Cross Bronx Expressway, cars on the side of the road burn out. Like holy crap. So here's Trump. His father's telling him, don't go into Manhattan and build. Don't go in there and build. What's he do? He goes right in and builds. And he's going to build a massive structure to change the way people think about this city, this beautiful tower, to instigate a different mindset, a different cultural outlook of what a beautiful city could be. And then you have the entrenched scumbags, the Democrats, Dinkins, and whoever else. These are sewer rats because they turn the city into a sewer and they keep it that way so they can maintain power, cutting deals, making money. So when Trump goes in there, what does he have to do? He has to deal with every dirty politician, city council member, every mayor, every scumbag, every contractor that he said will crawl toward the United Nations building to try to get a big contract, and get rich off of it while they don't do anything, worthwhile. And Trump is going to do it for free. I mean, this is what the guy navigated. And he politically to get that stuff done. And he had to screw some people. And guess what? They're the people that most likely always needed to be screwed because of what they'd done and who they were, how they built their businesses. Then he gets to Washington, D.C. And for Trump, the way I look at it, here comes Trump. He's proven he's a masterful. He is They said Bill Clinton had political skills. He makes Bill Clinton look like Elmer Fudd with what the guy does. He goes into D.C. and he looks in the sandbox, and there's a bunch of little bad kids in there. He's like, guess I'm gonna have to smack some asses here. And then he goes to work on them. And what's he done? He's not draining the swamp. He's been gutting it from the ground up. You get the Speaker of the House running for the hills. You have committee chairmen retiring when they have committee chairmanships. They've worked 20 years to get. They've had it for 2 years, and they're retiring because when he got to town, he let them know what he knew. He's like, it's over, boys. You're Republican. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, who you are. It's over. And what happens? The rats started jumping off a ship well before it was even on fire. That's the power of Donald Trump. That kind of fear. It's truly, he's one of the most. The guy's a force of nature. I mean, I've been watching politics for decades and involved in the degrees I've been, but I'm like, this guy is the greatest show on earth, and marvels me like just over and over. He's the right guy for the right time.
It was
for what we are going to accomplish.
Perfect timing.
Yep. Perfect timing. In my opinion, we've got our Patriot Street Fighter, brand image and all that. I said this the other day when Ron was creating a new shirt, because I don't know if you've seen it. It's like it's the tomahawk with the Constitution as a handle, right? He rolled up Constitution as a tomahawk, and that's kind of is it like the Mel Gibson face? They made one of these things, and so they're having fun with it. I don't have anything to do with it. I just give them a picture, and they do what they want with it. But and I'm like, you know what? You know who the ultimate patriot, the original Patriot Street Fighter is? Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump. Gets in the street, calls these people names, everything that he says about them, beats the shit out of them, slaps them around publicly, humiliates them. Why? Because he knows that a ton of these people are pedophiles, child traffickers, satanic murderers, part of the Luciferian order that's going to shock the world. He knows that. That's why he shows no respect. He's going to embarrass them, and he's going to keep doing it because it's never been done to them before. It's never been done. Nobody has ever come out of it like this.
I think we all agree on this Patriot front. Anyone who's done anything like that, to children or even any harm like that. Like he shows them no respect because they're scum. They deserve no respect. And I'm very curious because it was said today. Actually, a Pelosi spokesperson came out and said that it is official that her laptop was stolen from Capitol Hill. This is going to get really dirty. Lynn Wood is dropping things that I never thought would be dropped by a public person at that high of a level. Everything from, again, satanic pedophilia to Obama to Roberts to now stuff coming. He actually posted this morning that the Pope was arrested, whether or not that is officially true 100% or not. He's dropping this information. Hell is going to, like we are heading into a big roller coaster machine probably this week. I mean, my wife asked me tonight and I said, she goes, how fast do you think this will go down? And I go, honestly, I don't know, but I would say I would wait for that emergency broadcast system in the next 24 hours.
You know, we're on to something, and there's no question we're on to something. And Linwood, I said the foremost recognized and spotlighted people on the planet right now are Donald Trump, Sidney Powell, General Flynn, and Lynn Wood, because Lynn Wood has, well, first of all, he has knowledge of things. He has to, an extraordinary amount of courage, because he also is looking at the face of that dragon and he's shooting arrows at it, calling John Roberts a traitor, a pedophile, all this stuff. And so now you're saying, okay, D-class is going to happen. D-class is going to happen. How's D-class going to happen? Well, if it comes out from the White House, it's a political tool and assassinate, whatever. Is the military going to declassify it? Again, they're Trump turned him, sided with him. But now you got a guy who's been off the radar on whatever level for a lot of years till all this stuff came up. And, he's also, they tried to hit him hard weeks ago because he donated to a number of Democrats, tried a way to soil his reputation among the right, the people, the Republicans. How do you know he wasn't part of the plan for a long time that purposely donated as a Democrat, pretending he was a Democrat, supporting a Democrat, all that stuff? This infiltration machine that the Alliance built had to be as good as what they do. So how is that not plausible? And on top of that, so now you have this guy, he's a defamation attorney. And as a defamation attorney, he's not going to say things that aren't true because he knows the repercussions. He goes after people like him. So I look at that and I'm saying this guy's is the declassification pipeliner for some pretty horrible shit to get that thing moving. And, Jason knows this, and this is how powerful Lynn Wood is, and I know how powerful he is in that face.
He blew your world up last night. I saw it.
My world, I'll tell you what, I did this video, as you know. If people have seen this video that Lynn Wood posted on Parler, they think it was January 2nd because somebody took a video that I did November the 12th of last year, outlining after the whole election thing happened, calm down, here's what's really going on under the radar. So you understand there's no reason to worry. Here's what's really happening. That video got like 344,000 views in 13 days. I didn't know what that meant because my little YouTube channel is a recorded radio show, 2 hours, creative video narration, put it up there, they get 1,000 views, right? So that happens. So the world goes crazy. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? So now people start coming to my channel. And I did one live stream. And it went crazy. So that video got killed right away. Wrong message for YouTube. So other people grabbed it, shot it out there, and it's probably had 1 million views before Lynn put it up there because it's on other channels. It's taken off of mine. So it's on now get this, it's on some guy's channel, it's a Patriot. It's called True Conservative Minute 8. Okay. So this person is on their 8th YouTube channel. 8th. They're getting thrown off, but this is what a street fighter does. Whoever this person is, I commend you. They get up another channel. Fork you. You're not kicking us off the battlefield. I'm staying in this war. So there's about either 12 or 17,000 subscribers to this person's channel. They put my video up there from the 12th of November. And right now we're at 24 hours later, there's 2.6 million views, right? So not only is my world blown up because everybody on earth is hitting me, you're not going to go to, Linwood just put your, it's going, people are going crazy. I was like, really? And I still don't know what it all means because I'm like, is that good? Like a million views, like in 7 hours? You're like, are you insane? I'm like, I don't know these things.
No, seriously,
So,
his
anyways,
videos are up. He has
from about 12,000.
he has 97,000 subscribers, but you're right, his videos were like 1,000, 2,000, a few hundred, and then you were like in the middle here 1 week ago, 2.6 million views.
He put it up. Yeah, he put it up. He put it up. He put this thing up a week ago, and I think it might have had a couple thousand views, right? Because I saw it when it was when it went from basically 0 to 245,000. Somebody told me that. They said, dude, XYZ in a thread. I'm like, oh, really? Wow, that's crazy. So here we are. This guy, and the bigger thing is this. He went to 97. He's almost 100,000 subscribers in 24 hours. Now that I understand because I watch my subscription, go up, a jump and then slow. But so yeah, anyways, now I truly understand the power of Lin Wood and his credibility as a weapon. I'm glad he's on my side. I guess he watches our work, but he just put it up, says must watch, capital letters, truth. And because he said it, everybody is just grabbing that video. I directed people over to Brighteon because I have it parked on my channel there. And it was getting so overloaded, I found out last night. People were saying it won't come up. They deleted it. I'm like, no, their system's overloaded. I sent it over to Mike Adams, or I just uploaded it. Mike Adams reached out to me. He said, I don't know what's going on, Scott, but our servers are about ready to go down. I'm like, sorry, dude. I told people, give them the link on Parler. You need to get over here if you can't find it. But if you have a powerful force like that did what that did, folks, because what I understand, this doesn't happen anywhere in the world on YouTube. In 24 hours, you get 2.6 million views on any video out there, right? Has nothing to do with me, believe me. That's Lin Wood. He liked the message. So if that guy can have that kind of an effect, and he's putting out here that John Roberts is a pedophile and well, I know he's Knights of Malta, and he's committed treason, what do you think that's doing? That's shifting the consciousness of the planet. They have a Supreme Court justice in the United States that is an absolute criminal Luciferian. Are you kidding me? So, in my opinion, yeah, he's a weapon. I mean, and he's as smart as can be too. He's a weapon.
No, 100%. It's been amazing. He's actually been. I started getting my core people who I follow because I'll be honest with you, there's so much misinformation jumping all over the place. Like it's almost like it becomes a roller coaster of a day because you see something, you don't know who's legit or not. And I really have just become more of follow Sidney Powell, follow Flynn, follow Lin Wood, because they wouldn't be saying things like this. They have too much reputation on the line. To put that out that publicly, and it's stuff that I've read and studied for quite a while, so I knew there was something to it. Now they're just exposing it, which is mind-blowing. Before I let you go tonight, I have two things I want you to cover real quick. The first one, because I've been talking about this for quite a while now, and I would love to get your kind of opinion and viewpoint. I've heard you talk about it a little bit, but we were on Monkey's show, and you only had a couple minutes. I believe, because we are obviously massively in debt, but it's not really a debt because it's bankers, it's not legal debt, etc. I've been following the quantum financial system for quite a while, but also there's a lot of people talking about Nasera. I don't know if that's exactly what's going in, if that's going to be the name of it. I know the background of with Clinton trying to sign it, or the military forcing something there, and then possibly Trump going into it. But either way, the financial system has to be reset because there is no way around this banker system. What are your thoughts on what we're going to see from a financial system? Because at the end of the day, I tell everybody, no matter what happens politically, it's always about the money behind the scenes. How does the republic get restored back to a treasury? Because even Kennedy was trying to do this, and they knocked him off.
All right, my understanding is that the quantum financial system is obviously unhackable, and it's already up and running, and it's been running alongside the Federal Reserve or the central banking system, this global theft machine in all these countries. But what they have been doing from there are these massive humanitarian funds around the world that have basically been parked on the sidelines, like the Manchu dynasty gold, and this is the Manchu family, not government. This is Manchu family. They've got There's so much there's staggering wealth on this planet that every human could live like a millionaire, truly. But that's what these guys have been machine they built for to slave us and have us just basically turn over the wealth of the planet to them, give us peanuts. But so they've tried to do this in the past, and they did force, as I understand, Clinton to sign it at gunpoint. The military did, and a number of legitimate congressmen, and then it was to be implemented in 2001, and that the day that Alan Greenspan, or the day that 911 attack hit, Alan Greenspan was supposed to make the announcement of the new transition. And of course, what did they do? The Bush attacks and CIA, Mossad, Clinton's taking down the towers. Call them what you want, Mckay Mafia. So it stopped it. So they had to move against this financial machine. And one of the things that I heard, I think Charlie Ward told me this, or he might have said it in one of the shows. I think he told me that that they had taken these dragon bonds, some of these ancient bonds, and Trump took out like a grain of sand out of there, like $100 trillion, and he paid off the national debt of every country on the planet because they're all held by the Rothschild central banks worldwide. And once they paid off the national debt of every country on earth, then they hit him with 1,000 criminal actions and subpoenas, and then they seized all the money back. So they basically just screwed them. But the money isn't worth anything anyways because it doesn't back anything. The debt worldwide is not worth anything because there's nothing backing it. It's just paper out of air, and it's a system and a machine that they've implemented, the Babylonian money magic slave system. So now that that's down and it's killed, then they're going to issue, the dollar's going to convert into the new U.S. note. We have a gold-backed currency now. My friend is supposed to send me the pictures. The first two versions or three versions he described of it was interesting, but the new actual version of what they're settling on, and I seen one with JFK on, one with Nikola Tesla, Eleanor Roosevelt surprised me because they said no, she was a humanitarian. It was FDR that went socialist, but. So those will be exchanged out one for one. But every dollar is going to have a digital signature to it, a digital certificate that's tied to gold. And all the revaluation of all the countries, how much gold is inside the ground, how much gold they have, the population of the country, the productive GDP of the country. That's what's going to determine the value, maybe you call it the exchange rate of their currency. But there's been 209 countries signed on to Nassar law to say, we're going to be part of this new quantum financial system. It's going to be fair. There's no more dives on your money when your dollar's worth $1 in 1911, and now it's worth about 15 cents. All that shit's going away. All that criminality, manipulation, kill an economy, take all your stuff for nothing, build it up, sell it to you for top dollar, do it again, and they keep doing that. It's going to be all that goes away. It's all stable. So that's how I see all this process going to implement Nassar law. And there's a lot of other things politically that are happening that you see that have to be done to solve this problem of these criminals. You can't fix Washington. You can't, well, let's run this person. It can't be fixed. It can't be fixed. It has to be dismantled. And that's what Nassar law does. If they implement it, they're not going to come out and say, we're implementing Nassar, president's removed from power, vice president's removed from power, Congress is disbanded, 120 days of military rule with an interim president like a General Joe Dunford, General Carter Ham, Flynn, whoever, until they have a 120-day cycle to have secured elections with, again, our technology we know exists. And then that puts everything in motion. So I see the political side of these things being a possibility playing out. In that case, how do you empty out Washington? Let them do what they did, get rid of, and many of these criminals as possible, when they see him hauling them away to Gitmo, how many of the others are going to jump in there and say, hey, wait, I got information, because they want to save themselves. Okay, great. Now get out. Thanks for the information. We'll leave you alone, cut deals and whatever. But there's going to be a way that they actually gut that swamp from the ground up in ways that they're not going to come out and say, here's the bullet points of all this. Anyway, that's the way I see it with the quantum financial system. It's going to be very fair. There's going to be enough money to go around, not just for having a lifestyle that we should have always had with working a fraction of the time we've had to work to earn money to hang on to our stuff. You kill the income tax system and have just a straight flat tax. All these bullshit taxes that they saddle on us for everything imaginable. All the debt you have is canceled out, mortgages, cars, all of it. And that's happening now because my listeners have been coming to me for a while. Scott, it already happened. Have another friend of mine, Suzanne, she had a $25,000 marketing bill from a company that ripped her off before she figured it out. Guess what? She went to make a payment. She told me this 3 weeks ago. It's gone. I've had people tell me this left and right. They're doing it. They're testing it out on how it works, I guess, on an electronic basis. But all that debt's going to go away. Think of a lifestyle shift, Jason. No mortgage, no credit card debt, no car payment. All you take 80% of everything you slave for to pay these fixed costs. Think of how much money. Think what happens to your lifestyle. What happens to your happiness? What happens to your energy frequency? What happens to your consciousness? Everybody starts liking each other. God didn't put us in this octagon with limited resources and say, go ahead, kids, fight it out. It's not the way it's supposed to be. Anyways, I do a hell of a soapbox when I get on that, so I apologize.
No, you don't have to apologize at all. I love it. And it's so fascinating because other than healthcare, which is my last question for you, finance is something that I've always been fascinated with at a global level. And this is the crazy part is, I'm 43. Everyone alive right now, I think, has never known what freedom is because of the Federal Reserve. Like, we've all been under the Federal Reserve System, so we've only ever known slavery, debt slavery, etc. So we've worked our butts off to like still be successful, still do well. Like, there's obviously populations that are not doing well, but we worked so hard that it's actually hard to imagine because the Republic started. Money was given by the Treasury, and there's countries in the Middle East. Gaddafi in Libya. I'm not saying he was a perfect person, obviously, but they were giving money out to people to get a home, to get married, to have children, and that's not socialism. That's actually taking care of the people of your country. That's something that Christ would do. That's something that Buddha would do. That's something that Gandhi would do. But it's so funny because every time I hear about it, it's actually sometimes hard for me to grab my hands around that because we've been taught that we have to work so hard all the time and kill ourselves to make all this money for our family when in reality, what would it be like if we didn't have, we could still be successful, we could still achieve, we could still do great things, but what if the money system was different? So the fact that, you could go home and spend time with your kids without having to worry about losing your job, we've just been sucked into this matrix, and there's parts of it that don't need to be that way.
And that's going to be a hard leap for a lot of us that were trained a certain way as capitalists and entrepreneurs. And, the formula that you got to work hard and, just sell yourself out and all that. Here's the way I see all that. And even for the people that are just making a living. So if we have this abundant planet, which can produce unbelievable miracles and call it wealth if you want on that realm. But let's say now that your financial aspirations were met, whatever that is, if I just had a brand new Harley Davidson, or if I like what I do, but I'd like to only do it 20 hours a week, or I've always wanted to open a body shop. What if we had a planet that was so abundant that the idea was to give you a lifestyle that was taken care of so you can figure out who you really are? That if we've done this dream session stuff, if you had all the time, money and time weren't an issue, what would you do? We've asked this question so many times in so many decades. It's kind of cliche now. What would you do? And you think about that. What if you didn't have to work to have happiness, have abundance, and you could take whatever you discover, a talent or something you want to develop, take a shot at something, you put your heart and soul into it. That's why business entrepreneurs, when they really have their heart and soul into something, like since this whole thing happened 2 months ago and that video went crazy, nothing like what Lynn did to me. Thank you. I'm honored. I have gotten, look, I took those lights off because I have raccoon eyes like you haven't ever seen on me in my life, right? I don't get any sleep. But what's amazing, if I got to go out, design solar systems, I'm in the solar industry, and I got to, keep my business moving. I'm tired, and now I I can't sleep. I got 3, 4 hours and I wake up. My brain wants to get back on this playing field because I've been waiting for this for decades. I didn't think the day was ever going to come to fight this war in this way. But the energy you get because your physical being, your biochemistry has an amazing shift when your spiritual energy rises. It becomes a production machine. You can't get enough. When that baby is making you so tired up all night long, and then you still can't wait to get up and see the baby in the morning. You know how that is when you have kids, right? And you know the difference. That's why a mother can survive that, which is an extraordinary thing to me. Extraordinary. Um, that's what the world becomes when they kill this machine and bring the wealth of the planet forward so we then can start working for benevolence. I think we turn into a massive global rescue mission for the people in the streets, people that are put there because the machine was designed to put people there, to meet people in foreign lands because I have the money to go help somebody in Africa, teach them how to grow food and meet people you fall in love with and they're little kids who are hugging. You're like, I don't know what could be better than that. You can stack money and gold as high as you want and stand there and look at it. And believe me, achievement has always been in my world. But at some point, you got to say, that's why people become billionaires, get bored. What's next? They can't find the joy. They become twisted freaks that do this weird. Again, whatever those things are, as long as you're not hurting humanity and they're up for whatever. I don't care about any of that. But the terrible things they do, because the only thing that feeds their soul is power. They haven't lived the way our creator, define your creator however you want, has intended for us to live, to go from a spiritual being having a human experience versus the other way around, and getting us to actually have that, to go through that. Because you can't attain your highest spiritual potential, which is what lights your soul up. It's when you fall in love with that girl or the girl with the guy or whoever. When that happens, that magic is part of what we're made of. That is what most of the world misses because they're beating us to death. And you're trying to just survive, not in the level a lot of people are in these third world nations, but psychologically you're trying to survive this one because, all the things that go on. You can't ascend spiritually. That doesn't even make sense. You give me a Bible that says that this toil is good for you. That's bullshit. The Luciferians put that in there. A lot of the stuff, all the stuff they took out, Christ's message, you don't have to be a Christian, but I look at philosophies. It doesn't make sense. If you understand the laws of nature and the laws of man, it's not rocket science, right? So anyways, that being said, you talk about big pharma, all these things that bring, terrible stuff we think they're actually saving us and they're killing us. Now, big pharma saved me. Believe me, I'm fortunate. I'm so fortunate by some of these people and brilliant surgeons and people that did amazing things for me in the past. But the whole world's going to change. We're at the dawn of a new era. And you can't even imagine what's coming. All these people that have your heels dug in hate Donald Trump. I don't even know how you're going to rectify that in your soul when you get on the other side and find out what's been really going on and why it's been going on. And I've said this to a lot of people. Look, I'll call them out. The harder you fight, when you learn about what's being done underground in these deep underground military bases run by the cabal, horrific horror movies on children every day. I don't know how you recover from that, because someday you're going to have to look in the mirror and say, I was aware of this, heard about it. I didn't care. My life's good. It's not my kid. Good thing our creator doesn't think that way, right? It's a good thing.
Oh, I told you earlier, when that information comes out, I am going to fully on camera admit this right now. When we find out and see even just a small piece of what has happened to these kids and how America is going to be redone correctly, I'm going to be bawling my eyes out. And it's going to be a spiritual release because I've known about this stuff going on. I've talked about it as much as I can without getting banned and everything else. But like, this stuff has to go away. And you're gonna literally have a massive spiritual release from everybody when you see what they and there isn't even things that Scott and I can say that will actually even give you the full gravity of what they've been doing, because when you think something is evil in your world, when you've labeled that thing with evil, they've done worse. So there really isn't even a thing to put the word evil on, because they've done things that are not something you wouldn't even know they could do, and it's so unspeakable. It's unreal, and that is going to be part of the awakening, and the fact that we have to wake up what is happening to our world. And it's interesting. I got a call from my buddy the other day, and he said, I've had 3 people now tell me behind the scenes that they have met with President Trump on business situations, and he did things on the spot. Somebody was having trouble with rent, somebody was having trouble with a bank on a mortgage, something on a business, etc. In the last 4 years, this isn't previous. We already know the good works he was doing. But the last 4 years, he literally would tell his assistant or chief of staff or whoever was next to them, make a call to this bank, do this, do that. And he would literally, in front of them, have it taken care of, because he did not want that person, that American, going through that kind of turmoil, that kind of pain, when he knows we're an abundant planet. There is no reason for this. And I find that completely fascinating. You were in, I think, the wellness field, as you told me about, and we share that together. The last one before I let you go tonight, so you can get some rest out of this. I have my visions for healthcare. What are the visions you see? Because you know what healthcare, like I do, really looks like. What are your visions in this new America, in this new world, about what we actually do with healing for people?
Excuse me. I think the bad parts of big pharma healthcare go away. It's going to be a tough adjustment for some brilliant doctors and surgeons who were duped into coming through a machine and a system built by the Rockefellers to create poisons to slowly kill people under the guise of helping. In many ways, they do help some things, but if you understand this, like Jason does, these pharmacological products all come from plant-based research. That's how they identify different chemical molecular compounds in the plant kingdom, and identify those that affect human biochemistry in a certain positive way, and then they go produce it in a laboratory instead of growing a bunch of plants, because they can't patent those things. They can patent a toxic product. All of them are toxic. There's not one of them that aren't if they're synthetic. But that being said, that's going to go away. Doctors are going to be, moved into a different realm of healing, because the technologies are going to drop onto the planet from these secret space programs that are now under the umbrella of the Space Force. That's why Trump started it, because they have to disclose the horror of what they've kept from us, this cabal technologies that could have kept my mother here, cured cancer like instantly, virtually, in these holographic pods, med beds, sonic healing technologies. We're frequencies, folks. We're energy frequencies, So all you have to do is get the cells at the right frequency. The body heals itself. And these sonic healing machines they've got, you'll lay on them, whatever the problem is, it's going to correct itself. That's very advanced stuff, obviously, but I think there's going to be a massive global manufacturing boom, because they're declassifying all this stuff under Nassara law and implementation. As I understand, they're going to do it anyways, because they're killing the beast all in all areas. So medicine's going to be, I think, a lot of medicine outside of the technologies are going to do unbelievable things. I believe soldiers are going to be made whole again, limbs brought back. Look, they have creatures on the planet lose a tail, lose an arm, it'll grow it back. We have technologies in these programs that do this now. Do it now. But their purpose, the Luciferian order, that's not their objective for you. That is for them and not for you. And that's why it's going to be hard for you to believe that that's actually happening. Age regression machines, all this unbelievable technology, so you can have the human experience as a spiritual being that has been stolen from you. The ones that are not here anymore, we can't do anything about that at this point. But you get a fair shot of the, call it, 1,000 years, whatever you want to call it, bliss. Now, what happens to the practitioners? Well, they're going to find, I guess, different ways to, and I'm sure they're going to be inspired because how the hell could an oncologist go to bed easily at night when he's injecting into people, they're prescribing that to be in, by law, legally has to force people to take chemotherapy that is created in a laboratory by people wearing hazmat suits. Think about that. It's an unbelievable murder machine. It's a murder machine. Those people are going to have a spiritual revelation of themselves because think they're not going to be surrounded by death at their own decision and hands anymore. So I see nothing but an amazing rainbow on a horizon from rain that just washed away a horribly dark planet as this moves forward. And I think we're absolutely blessed to be here in the transition, not only of this takedown of this Babylonian money magic slave system, this machine, this Luciferian order, and unleash, the power of human potential, human consciousness to do things we never thought. And we're not going to have to take 100 years to do it, or even 20 years to do it, or even 10 years. We're going to make massive change quickly. So, be healing practitioners. The guy sitting at the gas station right now having a candy bar because he's waiting for the next car to come in to pump gas up in the Northeast where they still do that. Young guy, he just may be an unbelievably healing practitioner with these new technologies that they're going to have to build and manufacture worldwide. And I think it's just an unbelievable frontier. I really do.
No, it's well said. People can't even fathom the technology. I mean, I have a resonant light machine coming to my house in the next week, literally just using frequencies to, heal, detoxification. I mean, it's so amazing what people have been lied about too, and what really works, and the fact that we can use herbs and everything else, but we let me tell you, the spiritual being actually controls the body, and that there's a reason why they call it psychosomatic, because people can create their own disease just by being suppressed and depressed based on the medications and chemicals and the psychological warfare that the cabal has put on them. I mean, it's been pushed down so much. Where can people find you now, man? Where are you out there on the internet? Where is the best place for them to go?
I would say probably I got two places. I have a mobile connect. It's patriotsriseup.com, and our home base warfare platform is scottmckay.us. That's a website. So we're putting things like that. Got to talk to you, Jason, about the right email type of service, because a lot of people want to get on an email list and have stuff sent out. So I got to get that stuff put together. Things are happening fast on that, so a little behind. I do Revolution Radio tomorrow night. It's every Monday, 8 to 10, live Eastern, and you just go to revolution.radio. If you go to any of my videos, whichever channel you land on, I always put that stuff in there, how to get on Revolution Radio. It's always Studio B, and, it's live. And, some people say I don't have internet. No problem. There's a phone number there. You can call in and listen to the show on your phone, and just be prepared. It's a full throttle truth hammer on these bad guys, which is how I offload my angst for what they have done to us. But that's how to find me.
Beautiful. It's so what I'm going to do, because my system is not allowing me to transfer the screen over for some strange reason, because welcome to the freaking internet today. And let me tell you, things are going slow tonight on the internet, which is it makes me wonder how fast before they pull the plug, how fast before the freaking thing goes down. It won't be shocking to me. What I'm going to do though is, if you are watching this, go to the revolutionnetwork.com. Get on my list with your email if you're first time watching this from Scott's. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pump out all of his information to everybody via my email list. I want everyone to know where he is, because Scott he's become a good buddy on the phone. We text and chat with each other, a wealth of knowledge, but just honestly, a great spiritual being, a great patriot, a warrior. And with guys like Scott putting his vibe out there, I know that we're in very good shape. So, sir, I appreciate you so much. Are you on Parler and Gab as well, or no?
Yeah, Yeah, in fact, if you go to, yeah, either of those sites, patriotsriseup.com or scottmckay.us is easy to remember. There are icon links there for those particular social media platforms. We're still on them. We understand Parler's going down tonight. My Twitter is still up, and I always tell my people, look, worst case scenario, they take all those things down. I do a radio show. They can't shut me down there. Goes through Skype servers. Maybe they could attack that. Who knows? But I can always say, hey, folks, here's where we are, in case we lose those mediums. But yeah, yeah.
Nice. And
Probably scottmckay.us is the best place to get all four of those: YouTube, Twitter, Parler, and I forget, maybe it's a Facebook link or something.
Great. So what I'm going to do is, so this actually is live, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking this right after this. I have the file already on the computer. This is going out to Gab and Parler the best I can tonight. If it uploads, it uploads. It also goes to Bravetv, YouTube, BitChute, Rumble. This will be out there to everywhere. And what I'll do is I'll work on putting actually the links as well in the video, so you can go to those as well. And we'll get everything knocked out so you can be in contact with Scott and watch his information too. Sir, I appreciate the friendship, first of all. I appreciate you coming on, and it's so nice to be aligned with such an amazing individual like yourself.
Well, that is absolutely mutual, probably squared, and I'm honored to get a chance to meet your audience. And for me, it's exciting to all these things happening now. I get to meet people like you, and we realize, just rubbing elbows together, like, wow, there is so many special people out there. And what this whole movement is doing is, it's like Mercury that's sort of all moving toward the center there. It's going to happen for a lot of people watching this because you're aligned with a message and a mission, and you're going to start making friends. So Jason and I would have never met. We would have never met. But I thought I was the only guy that, you have this certain image people see you in, but I'm like, does everybody else have like this kind of soft spot for humanity and like what's really good for everybody? And I'm like, thank God I'm not a weird anomaly. There's so many people like us out there that really want the best for humanity. And of course, you're front and center in that. And when you meet people like you at the Discovery, like, their heart beats the same way mine does. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. It's a truly great experience. Certainly, it's an honor, my friend. So anytime, I appreciate everything you're doing in your fight. They're attacking you pretty hard, and you just go build new platforms. I love it.
You got to stay ahead of it, man. It's fun. Yeah. It's my way of doing Trump 5D chess right now. I'm like, okay, stay ahead. It's so funny because all the Anons out there for like the whole year, we're on all these free platforms, and I tried to message them going, guys, build your own platform. It's actually not as expensive as you think. You have to do it, and no one wanted to listen. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna freaking do it, and not because I want to be ahead of everybody, but there's so much. All the content is being stole from YouTube, and if some of these people out there didn't download their stuff, it's gone. Like, this is what they don't understand. So you have to have your own platform, at least just to have your content so that you can push that out. Because I don't look at this content as in quote unquote sellable. I look at it as in, the more we push out, the higher we bring consciousness, the more people hear it. If this goes out and hits one more extra person tonight that's never heard this before, it's done its job. You need to keep pushing it out there, everybody. And you have to have it available. If YouTube steals it, you're screwed.
Exactly.
So, dude, I appreciate it.
Well, it's an honor. Anytime. Have a great night, and folks, have a great night as well. And Jason, we'll talk on the backside.
Absolutely. Revolution Network, Brave TV. This is Dr. Jason D. That is Scott Mckay. Stay tuned. Be prepared. Be patient. Be calm as everything unfolds this week, and we'll be here for you. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Take care. Okay, you're good.
Okay. Well, brother.